Okay, thank you so much. Can everyone hear me? Okay, good. So I didn't realize there was going to be quite this many people. So I'm actually excited because I like people a whole lot. I do. I like humanity a little bit better, but I like people as well. So take a little journey with me. I did this yesterday. Who was in my class? Oh, good. Yeah. Okay, so they can help you a little bit. So take a little time to step away from the knowledge that you currently know. I try to get people to kind of just massage their brain for a little bit, to kind of step outside of what you already know and move into this space here, okay? So we're closing the doors a little bit, okay? And I'll tell you just a little bit what I do. She told you a little bit, but I teach tech education at meetings and events, and I am a meeting planner, have been one for maybe 20 years, give or take. So I love conferences and meetings. So give for a show of, and instead of hands, because you always do hands, can those people who would love to get out of email hell stand up for me? Okay, have a seat. Okay, my next question might be a little tougher. Those people who absolutely adore email, cannot live without it, and love to stay in email hell. Stand up for me. I know there's someone out there. Because people tell me all the time how much they love email, and I think it's quite interesting, very, very interesting. So, we're going to take a little journey, and I did this yesterday with the group. So those of you who have LinkedIn on their phones, fine. If you don't, not a problem. Look to your neighbor, and I saw tons of people who actually do. And I'm doing this for a reason, because if you get comfortable with the devices you have now, and with the tools that are in your hand, you will like email better, and hopefully you'll be able to communicate better. So it's a strategy and a tip. So in your LinkedIn app at the top in the center, there's this lovely thing called search. And there are a couple buttons in there, and I've been showing people this throughout the last couple of days. And this is how you can network with people one-on-one, so that you do not have to email your information to them. You do not have to send, which means sending an attachment to a person with your information in it. You can go directly to their what? Profile. And once you go there and you click it, you give access to the camera. And once you give access to the camera, you have your own personal QR code, of which a person can scan and go straight to the file. Now, what did I cut down then? I cut down paper, right? I cut down the lovely thing called, how do you spell Vismail? Is that with a B or a B? Right? I don't have to type that in. And the most important thing is I cut down me sending information in an email when I can get that from you instantaneously, face to face. So you see that? So it's not so much as I want you to take the action. You can take the action another time. But I want you to see how some types of things that you do don't always have to be done the same way all the time. Yes? Okay. So, this lovely little thing called taming email requires more than one person. Did you realize that? That means we have to cognitively be on the same page with the people we're communicating with. An email is what? A two-way conversation. Currently, the way that we're looking at email is that we have to have these long threads of reply, reply all, reply, reply all, reply, reply all. Some people do reply all, reply all, reply all. And you're tired of that. But have you taken a different step and looked at all the noise that takes place when we send email? I know it might be a little hard for you all to see this, but everyone in here will have an opportunity to get my slides. Okay? So let's just be present now, and you don't have to take a whole lot of notes. Okay? So this says, I'll read one maybe two statistics. In the time it took you to read this sentence, 20 million emails were written. And this was years ago the statistic was generated. So it has to be many more now, right? So this says also that 3.3 billion registered email accounts as of 2012. Do you know how long 2012 ago was? Do you know how long it takes technology to move? Okay, yeah, she said 6 months. Sometimes less, depending on if they're quite happy. If it's Microsoft, they move a little faster than that. Okay? So imagine, those are staggering numbers back then. So imagine what that means now. That's a lot of what I call hell that goes on. And we're all participating, we're agreeing to participate, but we continue to say to ourselves, I don't like that. But we continue to do it. So let's do things a little differently. We have rules. Y'all have rules and regulations in your industry, right? If I remember correctly. Well, how come we haven't put any rules on how we engage with people? I want you all to take a step and think about your teams. Any teams that you lead, or if you're just on a team. Create a rule that you're going to have for a week, 5 days. And tell those people who are going to participate, they have to or else. And you decide what the or else is. Okay? I'm going to give you a major one at the end of this. But for these rules and regulations, turn off all notifications. Do you think you could do that to quiet the noise? And this is not just on your desktop, but this is on your mobile devices as well. Some people carry 2 mobile devices with them, a personal and a professional, as well as a laptop and a desktop. That's 4 devices. So that's 4 different types of notifications that you're going to see everywhere you go. Do you really need all of them on at the same time on those 4 devices? No. Let's see if we can cut those off to quiet the noise a little bit. The other one is set filters and add labels. Filters are what? Someone can yell out, what are filters? It's the way in which you sort information and data. That means I only want to see emails from my boss only at this point. But then I'd like to see emails from home at the next point. And I don't want to see all my emails at the same time. And maybe I want to create labels. I'll label my boss, got to get to it now. Home, if I don't, I'll get killed. Maybe things I like to do as fun, just put a label on that. And then all emails that come in from those particular entities will be labeled accordingly. And then I can sort. You know that lovely little thing called sort? You're sorting with filters. That's just like glasses. You see my glasses? That means I'm putting on a lens. Without it, I can't see. With it on, I can see. So I'm choosing how I see things. So think about doing that with your email. Use canned responses. What are canned responses? Remember that thing called out of office? How many people in here have used their out of office email to say something else other than I'm out of office? Right? You could put rules in there. You could do something cool like, I only respond to email Monday, Wednesday, and Friday between 10 and 12. Wouldn't that be great? Okay, let's try something else. I only read my emails between 10 and 12, and I'll be glad to get back with you after that time because I'm busy handling X, Y, and Z. So, if I know how to set boundaries within myself on how I work, and I haven't communicated to anyone else how I work, whose fault is that? Exactly, it's yours. No one knows that you only look at email during that time. You might be very, very organized. But if no one else knows that, they don't know how to engage with you. And you really shouldn't be embarrassed to tell people what works best for you. See, that's where the communication block comes, is we don't tell anybody at all. And then what happens? They don't hear from us. It takes weeks. They keep calling or keep emailing, replying all, and they're not getting anything back. Now, is it better to tell someone how you work so they know when they're going to get a communication back from you? Or is it better to continue to not respond to them? It might be better for me to tell you. Okay? Or, flip side, I respond to emails at a certain time. But regardless, definitely use canned responses so that people know things that are happening and going on besides you're just out of the office. It's built there for a reason other than that. So every time someone gets an email from you, you can say all kinds of different things to them. The last one is create separate inboxes for subscriptions and news alerts. How many people do that? That's not enough. There are apps that can do that for you, but you can do that as well. You don't need to see everything at the same time, because technically you're not reading everything at the same time. You're probably freaking out like, oh my gosh, I have all of this. But maybe 80% of that email might be junk or stuff that you can look at later. Now my personal assignment for you, for your team is, I want you all to take time to say to your team, what we're going to do for a week, we're going to test this out. We're only going to reply to email twice. And that third time that you really felt like you needed to reply to email, you're going to pick again. Let's choose again. You know that term, choose again? We're going to get up out of our seats. We're going to walk over to their desk. We're going to pick up, in that novel, that we'd actually go visit somebody and say, hi, how are you? Can we sit for a sec? Right? Or we're going to pick up the phone. You know that lovely little thing called a phone? My girlfriend told me the other day she was at work, and she's around my age, and someone in the office was like, call me. And they actually meant Skype them instead of saying Skype me. And she picked up the phone to call them, and they were like, well, what are you doing? They never answered the phone. They were like, well, what are you doing? I was like, you said call. That's still a communication barrier. But let's do that, or pick another solution on ways of communicating. WhatsApp them, text them, do anything else other than email. Because if you curb that behavior, you'll create a new what? Behavior. And if someone does it outside of your rules, then what happens? Don't respond. And hopefully if you're leading your departments, that's even better. Because if you don't respond as a leader to someone, and you've set down a rule, it's just like accountability. You have to make people accountable for something in order for that action to happen, correct? And then eventually everyone hopefully will be on board with that. Just a week. Nothing terrifying. If you need to do 3 days, do 3 days, but do a week and just see how the behavior changes. And you can slowly move to other things, okay? You like that?
I'm going to ask you to pause 1 second.
We have a question?
For those in the back, we do still have seats up front.
Yeah, we do.
So if you can't see Ms. Vismel, or I've got a request for you to stand on the stage, so I'm just trying to get them to come up.
Okay, I'm a mover.
Because we do have seats
Definitely.
up here for you.
Anyone who has a seat next to them, raise their hand. Tons of seats right in here. And I'm definitely a mover, and everyone who saw my session right there knows I'm going to visit you in the back
Thank you for moving up.
I'm definitely going to move in the back. Can you all hear me? I just wanted to make sure that you can hear me. Yes. Good. So is that good? Rules for your inbox. So, guess it's time for me to move around a little bit. Let's see. I've got rules. Every email represents a task. We have tons of tasks, right? Tasks can include filtering out information, absorbing information, and what? Filling it in. Include a loop and loop the right people into the email. How many people really do that or keep replying all? How many unnecessary people are consistently on emails that they shouldn't be? Email requires thought. Not that you get information, and remember, you're getting it, so you control the time limit on it, don't you? You'd be amazed the frustration and stress that people have when replying to email, feeling as though someone else outside of them has to drive their action. I call it respecting the pause. Because if you respect the pause, then you can respond a little bit better. I love this one, creating a deliverable. That's another reason, and responding to the email. But if I don't take the time to think through this as to what my rules of engagement are around email, then I won't ever know. Now, this is a little hard to see. There's no need for you to read it just to understand the concept, because you're going to get this. You need to ask yourself a couple of questions when it comes to your inbox. Does the email really truly require a response? That sounds like a very basic question, but how many people really think about that? It could just be for information only. You might respond to an email and say, okay, got it. Is that really necessary? Maybe not. Maybe you train yourself a little different. So if it says yes, then I can move to the next area. If no, how long does it take me to respond to the email? Is it 5 minutes or less than 5 minutes? And if it's less than 5 minutes, read it, file it, or delete it. Simple. If it's more than 5, I want it to live in my email for a certain amount of time and move it to an actionable place. Okay? And if I'm not sure, then I need to clarify. I need to ask some clarifying questions of the person that sent it to me, or I need to go in my information to research what they might be asking me and telling me, but I need to get to a yes or no. It's like that lovely little thing called snail mail. You remember those things used to come in the mail? And eventually it became junk mail. As it comes, it's going to keep piling up unless I make a decision. That is my what? Say it all together. Respecting the pause. Say it together. I didn't hear enough people. Respecting the pause. Because if I pause and decide what I'm going to do with this mail that's in my hand, either I'm going to chapter 13 it, what? Give it to someone, file it away, recycle. That's still an action that I need to think about doing. I need to do the same with email. If not, I'll continue to what? Get it and be frustrated about it. All right? And we don't want to do this. This is still just a chain of information of where the way, it's a lovely little chart. People like charts. All left brain people like charts. I'm right brain. I don't necessarily like charts too much, but this is for you. So it's got some information on it that you, again, don't have to read right now. But it takes you through a chain of steps that you can take to ask yourself stuff like, who is the sender? Based on the sender, what do? I do X, Y, and Z. So it's great homework for you to do. And I also challenge you all to sit, when you get these slides, with your team and ask these questions. Because it might be very interesting data for you to understand how your colleague interacts with email, how the person you report to reacts to email or reports to you, vice versa. We don't do enough talking to each other about where we stand and what works best for us. We just kind of work and try to get the work done. Now, I'm going to get into a couple apps that help you with this. Boomerang is one of them. How many use Boomerang or heard of it? Not one person, a couple people? You like it? Cool. So what Boomerang is, just think about a real boomerang. And we're in Australia right now. And I'm going to take my boomerang and I'm going to throw it away, right? And what happens?
It comes back.
Right? So imagine I'm not throwing a boomerang, I'm throwing what? An email. And then what? It comes back. But I can choose how it comes back and when it comes back and all of those things with it. And it sits in my inbox. I want 1 hour next week, a certain time of the day. I can choose those types of things to happen. I can pre-craft an email and have it scheduled to be sent at another time. Think about how you can do that. Wouldn't that organize yourself a little bit better if you can do that? Outlook does that now. Gmail does it as well. Boomerang does it as well. Do not skip over all of these lovely little tools that are there for you at your fingertips. Don't hesitate to stop clicking on those other little buttons to find out how things work. This is called x.ai. I talked about artificial intelligence just a little bit in my talk the other day. And this is where in which we decide that we're going to be what? Those people who are there. Strategic leaders, right? And we're going to be who we're supposed to be, utilizing our brain in other capacities. So x.ai is lovely. I have a little person called Andrew. You can get Amy if you want, but I liked Andrew. And Andrew works on my behalf. And what Andrew does is if I decided to have coffee with Millie, if I decided to have coffee with Millie, I would send an email to Millie and I'd CC Andrew. And then Andrew would take it from there because he already has access to my calendar and he knows where I like to have coffee. And then he'd have an email conversation back and forth with Millie until they decided when that's going to take place is best for you. Once that is decided, then what he does is he sends you a meeting notice, and then he lovely puts it on my calendar for me. So I have one conversation. I only touch it once, and then the two of them go for it. So what is Andrew, my little assistant, right? And Andrew's actually a little computer, just a little bot that handles it for me. How we can come out and have one action instead of what? That reply all and those threads to go back and forth to see when it happens. So you have a pain point and a solution. Calendly. Anyone use Calendly? Yes. Do you like it? Okay. So what Calendly does is, it's really interesting how it will, within Calendly, I'll give an opportunity for my calendar to be accessed, and it pulls out several dates. Like in this example, there are 11 start times for Friday, 11 start times for Monday, 9 start times for Tuesday, when I'm possibly available for that coffee with Millie, right? And then that email goes to Millie, and then what happens? Millie gets to what? Choose which one she wants. I'm like, okay, that's what she wants. Boom, done. Goes to her calendar and then to mine. Do you see how that got at a little bit of email hell? See how we're slowly coming above water? Mailstrom. This thing right here made me so happy when I found it. I bought it the second I saw it. Because I get excited about technology. I get excited about the basis of technology, which is what? It solves a problem. That's what you need to look at. That tech is designed to solve a problem. And you go with that technology because hopefully that's their bread and butter and they have solved the problem well. So what Mailstrom does, this thing is amazing. I can put all my email addresses in here. Now I know you have to work with things that are secure and HIPAA compliant, right? But there's business and personal, and then there are still systems that similarly do this within the confines of what you still can do. Again, you're thinking about the possibilities of what can be done, okay? Now, within Mailstrom, it looks at all my email, it pulls it up, and it check marks next to every email already for me. So if I wanted to delete something, I don't have to check it on my own. It's already checked. Isn't that cool? And then I can decide what I want to do. I can click on time if I wanted to, and I can see how many email I have from 3 months ago I haven't looked at, how many email I have from yesterday I haven't looked at, yes. And it can go back months, and and it tells me it's all lumped up there. It's quite depressing, but it tells me the truth. Size. I can do it by size. I can do it by social media. So all the social sites will come together, and I can easily hit delete on that one. That's a great one for me to actually see, right? Sender. Oh, love Sender. When we talked about our boss and we only wanted to see email at a certain time, right? Well, I could say, okay, let's look at all the email from her. And you're like, okay, I guess this must be 2 o'clock on a Thursday, and I have my glass of tea. So I can definitely do a woosah before I look at all her email, all at one time. But you can sort really easily. And then from there, because they're already checked, if I want to archive it, put it in spam, delete it, move it around, whatever I want to do, easily, boom, boom. That's how you have to think about filtering, labels, and things of that nature as it comes to email. You got that? Okay. Who uses Outlook in here? It's probably most of y'all. Okay, so of you all, how many people have Outlook app on their phone? That's not enough. Outlook app is one of the most phenomenal email apps out there, whether you use an iPhone or Android, or whether you use Microsoft or not, doesn't really matter. And that's a huge compliment because I'm not necessarily a fan of Microsoft, but Outlook and Microsoft Teams are two of the best products out there, okay? Because I can look at every last one, every type of email known to man within Outlook on my mobile device. Doesn't matter what it is. And I can sort however I'd like to. I can schedule emails, just like we talked about scheduling emails, in terms of throwing it away, coming back at another time if I wanted to. I can look at them all together, separate them. You know, if I slide to the right, the yellow comes up if you program it that way, and I can schedule. I can also add attachments. I know y'all like attachments. But I can if I choose to give it access to any of the cloud services that I've subscribed to and send email that way. So I don't have to wait till I get back to my desktop or my laptop to be able to send something. I can do a lot on my phone. Take pictures, I can do some audio files, and the beautiful thing about it also is the calendaring piece, where again, I could send you some dates that might be available for me, and you can select them. This is all in the mobile app. So if you don't have Outlook on your phone as a mobile app, I really suggest for you to take a look at it. Okay? Now, FollowUpThen is a little different. This will let you, it's going to sound a little confusing, but it's really very basic. Remember we talked about Boomerang, how you can, in your email, click on it and throw it away and bring it back, right? I can schedule meetings. Well, I can open up an email and I can forward this email to another email address. So kind of think about that, forwarding to another address. And the address I forward to will have the action that I want it to have in it. So, bring back on Friday at 2 p.m. at followupthen.com. So the action, instead of it being my name like testviz@gmail.com, the action of whatever I want comes first, and what comes behind it is at followupthen.com. And the interesting thing about followupthen.com, it's not actually a mobile app. You just sign up for it, and you can utilize it anywhere you want to. So I've encountered over the last few days a lot of you who don't like to download things on your devices. It's fine. But this could work for you too, where you're sending it away, and this system is actually handling the email for you. So conceptually, this is something that can happen without downloads. I hope I tried to make that as simple as I could. Okay, sorted. Anyone in the Gmail world? I did hear a couple people who use Google as their system at work. Okay, sorted can live inside your Gmail account, even for those of you who use it at home. It'll live in your Gmail account, and you'll see these columns. There's a column for inbox, to-do, follow-up, and deals, per se. And you can change the top if you want to. So your email will come up in the inbox, right? And instead of you just scrolling through the email down like this, you know what you could do? The email will come up. I can take it and do this. Slide to to-do, slide to deals, slide over to anything else. Then we will do what? Remember that sorted thing we talked about? I'm only going to look at what I really want to look at the time I want to look at it. That is the most valuable thing you should think about here. I don't care what you do. Only look at stuff when you need to look at it. And it lets me do it instead of scrolling through all the inbox and saying this, let me click on this and look at, oh, yes, I got to get back to that. When am I going to? No, our brains don't work that way. Just put them in compartments and then deal with the compartment as you want to. And Sorted will let you do that. There's a desktop version for that, and then there's a mobile app for Sorted as well. Now this one seems like it's a little bit more complicated, but it's not. Let's think about all those little mundane tasks that we do all the time that we don't want to be bothered with. We want someone else to handle, and things that can work in the background. This is IFTTT. Yes? Anyone want to use it? Yes? Occasionally? Okay, great. So it stands for if this, then that. You all should know that. If this happens, then I want that to happen and occur. Simple. Now, within the system is this lovely little thing called recipes. Everybody likes to cook in here? Recipes. So they're formulas to make things a success. So think about systems that don't normally talk to each other. What if this then that will do is it will bring those systems together and kind of integrate them. They're little baby developers that were out there, created all these tasks for it, and you don't have to develop it. You just click on it, give them access to the system, that two systems that you want to talk together. Boom, they talk together. So let me give you an example. Anybody use Slack in here? I know a couple people I saw the other day. Okay. Let's see. This is email a message into my Slack channel. Now, my email and my Slack channel are separate entities. So every time I do an action, I can have it sit here. Now, I'm a Twitter girl. Anytime that someone actually mentions me in Twitter, I have it set that Twitter will send that tweet from Twitter over to a Slack channel for me. Or it could send it into Evernote. Or it could get as granular. Let's see. Let me give a good one. When the label says to do, we know labels. We're going to label an email. Is added to Gmail or an email. A new reminder will be created on my iPhone. Now, does the iPhone and Gmail and your to-do list, those are usually all three separate things, right? But I can bring them together into one where it's one seamless task. Or every time I take a picture, I want that picture to go into my Dropbox or my box. So those are just examples of things that don't normally talk to each other. This system has tons of recipes that you could get really excited about and go through and find it. And I encourage you to look at the search area for those recipes because there's tons of stuff that you've never even thought about before. It'll blow your mind. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. I don't have to, because once you do it, you what? You walk away, and it's done back there in the background for you. And you never have to think about it again. So think how you can organize. How are we doing on time?
We're good.
Good. Now, I didn't get a chance to talk about this in detail in my other session, but these are OneNote and Evernote. OneNote people, those people who have OneNote, that y'all love it too, don't you?
I'm glad you're speaking on that. We do have a question on one.
Okay, good. Do you want to ask me first?
Can you speak to the function of integrating OneNote with email and Outlook?
Oh, I love it. That's a good one. Okay. And then Evernote people? Yes? Any of my people, my colleagues? Okay. Yes. All right. Just one. It's okay. No problem. Okay. So let's walk on a journey. Evernote and OneNote technically is what I call my brain's hard drive. Period. So anything and everything I want to do at any point in time, it replicates it in a digital environment. Anything. So how many people like to write on paper? You can raise your hands. It's okay. I'm a physical. Don't be shy. Okay. So all those people who like to write notes, you could write notes. Those notes can go into Evernote. Evernote I can search your handwritten notes in Evernote. That search engine is that phenomenal. It's only second to Google, and I question that at some points too. Right? Then, how many people like audio files, like to talk into stuff and like people to hear them? I'm an audio person. All right. That too. I can upload an audio file. So think about, can I borrow that for a second? Okay. So think about this one piece of paper here. And on this piece of paper, she's written. So I can scan the notes in there. But imagine I took a picture. I can't put a picture on this hard copy here. But in Evernote, in the same note, a picture can be here. Then an audio file can be here. Like she could be recording what I'm saying as she's writing here. She could talk into it and do talk to text in it as well. And the beautiful thing is she never has to hit save. It just saves. Okay? Now, Evernote and OneNote, they both give you an email address. So if we're talking about email hell, think about what that means. I can email that to someone through that, or I can, on the flip side, email something into the system. Now, the beautiful thing about OneNote is a Microsoft product. So it's a part of the Office suite. You all already have it. You might just not have never opened it. So it integrates beautifully. So let's say in that same note, in that same example, my Excel file is sitting in there, right? Maybe my contacts from Outlook are sitting in there. Maybe my Microsoft Word file is sitting in that same note on that same piece of paper. Can't do that a hard copy, but you can do it from a digital perspective. So then all my conversations are all in one place. So you don't necessarily, whoever answered that, who asked the question, you don't necessarily have to attach the file. It sits in a place that you can lovely collaborate if you want to, because I can invite someone in. Because I can't invite someone into her piece of paper. She'd have to hand it to me. And then when she gets finished with it, it might sit on a bookshelf, right? And there are notebooks and notes within each one of them. You got it? Is that good? We got that? So it's the brain's hard drive. So it can store anything that I'm thinking about, just about any, actually not just about, but any way. And my caveat is touch skin. I can't do that. I can schedule reminders in here if I needed to, all of those types of things, all in one place. And again, you do not have to hit the save button. Isn't that great? Lovely thing. So, let's see, I showed you a little bit of that. Teams. Teams helps you get out of email hell too. Because again, it is a system that's built for project management. Great, great. So I know you all probably worked with Microsoft Office Project, right? So let's shift over to a new innovative tool, which is here. It works similar to what I just told you with Evernote in terms of housing all of that information, but you can do it by way of project or however, whatever you're trying to manage, you can do that. And everything is in here. So this is an Excel document. This is a person who's communicating. She's sending an email or conversation, let's say. Looks like an email, but it's not. And then it's got the attachment of a PowerPoint document as well as an Excel document, and I can see who's actually communicating there. I can have a video call around that topic if I wanted to. That video conferencing file will actually be housed in in our Teams area, if you will. So all of the things that we're doing around that project will be there. And that keeps you from what? Replying all. And reply, and staying in email. The biggest thing with email challenge is what? You can't find it. Because you're doing this. And even if you hit search, you don't know what you're searching for. Right? Step away from email and use a tool that you can move things forward with. You cannot manage a project in email. If you are ineffective, no matter how successful you have been or thought you were. Not today. Come away from that. Utilize if people have issues with cloud services, that's fine, but you have servers at work, which is a cloud service. It is, point blank. Utilize that server at work to invite people in to share that document that you're working on, to collaborate. And you can see changes within it. Don't send attachments. There's no reason to send attachments. You invite the person into that document, let them work in the document with you, and they can see it simultaneously. And you can see the changes. And you can see the version changes. And if you don't want them to mess up your original, make a copy, have them in there, and then you can see it again. But don't do attachments. We want to come away from that, personally as well as professionally. You should have these types of tools to help you work, where you can see everything. And the beautiful thing about it is, what if somebody joins your team late and you're like in the last stretch and you have to hire someone at the last minute? And you have to onboard them. That is a nightmare, is it not? You just give them access to either Teams, Slack, or the Evernote that you've created, and they can see it. And they can get up to speed on their own, because they can see who said what, why, when they said it, because it's time-stamped. They can click on the video call that we had about it, or open up the audio message and listen to it. Do you see? So you're, again, allowing the tool to assist you to be more efficient. Slack is a communication tool. We talked about this the other day, but it's similar to the others in which you're creating channels. And they're just communication channels based on how you operate. My team, we do it by event because that's what we do. So I have a Slack channel on AGA, PDT. Everything that we talked about with this, my information sheet that talked about my flights, where I'm going, my hotel, all of that information is in here. Leading up to this, what flights I needed to take, who my contacts are, what sessions do I want to do, what do I want to talk about, all of that, dealing with everything that brought me here to you today is in that channel. And as I'm traveling, I have the app on my phone. If I need to communicate with my teammate KK, what I do, I go to my app and Slack, and I talk to her. And it's instant messaging back and forth about the same thing. We don't come out of it. because that's our way of doing it. And when you look at our email, it's almost none. You only see email in our company, probably mostly they're from clients. Very rarely are they from internal. Very rarely.
Tess, let me ask you a question. Since you said a lot of these apps, or some of them, are part of the Microsoft suite.
Yes.
But for those that are not, how secure are these apps discussed for the federal government?
I love it. I got the question yesterday, too.
Okay.
Anybody remember the answer? Okay. So the apps that a lot of the apps I talk about are what I call HIPAA compliant. A lot of them are. I used to work for the government at one point in time, so I know what that's like, but there is no way in which I could or anyone could say if it will be conducive for your particular agency or who you work for, because your IT departments are siloed. Mm-hmm. So they decide on what they want for your particular area, but that does not necessarily mean that another agency agrees. However, the products itself are. And what I mentioned yesterday is what I was going to give you is I have a laundry list, which I can put on the last slide in here, on both of them, that has all of the HIPAA compliant apps. Now, oftentimes it may be something like, let's give you Google as an example, because that's one people understand. As a consumer, I can use Google, and it might not be HIPAA compliant, but I can get an enterprise version of Google that is HIPAA compliant. So it's like that in some realms, okay? But I cannot, and I'm being honest with you, say across the board, something is going to be safe and secure based on what your own IT department decided. However, they should have a list for you that they probably don't like to publicize, but they should have a list for you. And you should be able to go to them and ask them. So once I produce the list for you that says that it is compliant, you should go to them and see if it's something that you can actually use. And at that point, that's their decision as to whether, if they say no, that's because they're saying no, not because the product is not safe. Is that helpful? Is that helpful?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's very helpful. We know how it works for federal government. I don't know how it works for state, but we do understand that. So can I ask you another question here?
Sure.
Is there a quicker method to deleting many emails at once other than individually selecting each one? There are thousands that need to be deleted. Please help this person.
Okay. So I'll try not to embarrass the person. If that person will put into the question what system you're using, then I can better answer that question. But most systems out there have a check all. Okay? And oftentimes when I'm working with people who are not as comfortable with technology, it's not because those tasks are not there. It's just because they have not been comfortable enough with clicking a button because they think they're going to mess something up. So it could be something as simple, because I need to just figure out which system, because each one is different, is where you're clicking into 3 buttons or hamburger. Do you all know what a hamburger is? Hamburger is where you see those 3 lines, or 4 lines, and you click it, and that's your menu option. We call them hamburgers, where it's giving you options of selecting all and there. So what I have on the screen for you, and if you don't mind, you can come up to me afterwards, whichever you want, and I'll show it to you. I have my URL right here, so you can take a picture of it. I'll leave it up the whole time. It's the same URL as yesterday, where you can get a copy of both presentations or this one. But I want to have a litmus test for you, which I usually do in the beginning. Number 1, my goal is so that you will have at least one takeaway from my session, and that you have fun. Those are all my requirements. So, do you have at least one takeaway? Yes? Okay. Did you have fun? That's most important to me. Okay. Have I answered most of your questions? Myself and my colleague KK will be out right next to registration in the LinkedIn and social media area, able to answer any other questions you have personally. But I will leave this up on the board for you. And I really, truly thank you for your time, and thank you for having me. You have a great day.
Thank you.